ancient army of warriors has been quietly conquering the world. Wherever small battalions of China's famous terracotta warriors are exhibited, they win over a new legion of fans.
The hidden tom beneath Xi'an, the secret that could rewrite China's imperial history. For centuries, the city of Xi'an has been called the cradle of Chinese civilization, the place where emperors ruled, dynasties rose, and the world's most mysterious army of clay soldiers was buried beneath the soil. But in 2025, something extraordinary happened just beyond the edges of this ancient capital. Beneath the earth, deeper than the known tomb of China's first emperor, archaeologists uncovered a chamber no record had ever mentioned. A sealed crypt that appeared untouched for more than 2,000 years. And according to early reports, this chamber might hold the body of Prince Gao, the lost heir of the Qin Dynasty, a figure that ancient historians once described as the prince who vanished between heaven and earth. The Terracotta Army and the lengths an emperor would go to cheat death itself. The discovery that wasn't supposed to happen, it all began quietly. A construction project north of Xi'an was halted when workers hit something solid beneath the soil, not rock, but carved stone. What they had uncovered looked like a tunnel, but its walls were engraved with symbols that didn't match any known style from the Qin Dynasty. At first, officials thought it might be another part of Emperor Qin Shi Huang's burial complex. But when experts from the Shaanxi Provincial Archaeological Institute examined it, they realized it was much older, or at least built differently. The tunnel's bricks were fused by a glaze-like material, as if exposed to extreme heat, and inside were traces of what one scientist described as Mercury, like residue, similar to what had been reported in Qin Shi Huang's tomb. The same mercury that ancient texts say was used to build rivers and seas. As excavation continued, the team discovered a sealed stone door. It bore no inscriptions, only a circular carving of a dragon swallowing its tail, a symbol rarely seen in Qin art, but associated in Chinese mythology with eternal cycles and hidden knowledge. Behind that door, scanners revealed something astonishing. A massive void nearly 40 meters below ground. A second tomb, the prince who vanished. To understand the shock this caused among historians, we need to go back to the year 210 BCE, the final days of Qin Shi Huang's life. The emperor who unified China, built the Great Wall, and commanded the Terracotta Army was dying. Obsessed with immortality, he sent expeditions across the seas, searching for the elixir of life. But his death left chaos in its wake. Ancient records say he had several sons, the most prominent being Fusu, the rightful heir, and Prince Gao, a younger son said to be born under an old lucky star. When the emperor died suddenly during a journey through eastern China, his most trusted advisor, Zhao Gao, conspired with another prince to forge a letter commanding Fusu to take his own life. Fusu obeyed, and with him gone, the throne fell into chaos. Prince Zhao was last mentioned in a single obscure chronicle, the Records of the Lost Court. It described him as a son whose tomb was hidden where dragons sleep. After that, he vanished completely from history. No burial site, no artifacts, nothing until now. Inside the Chamber of Echoes in late 2025, after months of delicate excavation, archaeologists finally entered the sealed chamber. What they saw was unlike anything from the Qin Dynasty. The walls were lined with obsidian black tiles, polished to a mirror finish. The air was dense, almost metallic, and at the center of the chamber stood a massive stone sarcophagus surrounded by hundreds of bronze mirrors, all facing inward, toward the coffin. Each mirror was etched with strange inscriptions describing light from heaven and voices from the mountains. Some were fused to the floor, as if struck by heat. But perhaps the most shocking discovery was not the tomb itself. It was what was found near the entrance. A terracotta soldier unlike any seen before. This statue was not made of the same clay as the famous army. Its body was darker, its armor engraved with intricate patterns, and instead of a weapon, it held a scroll. When scanned, archaeologists found text written in microscopic calligraphy, so small it could barely be seen with the naked eye. Translation revealed fragments of a story. The prince sleeps beneath the dragon's breath. His eyes shall open when the stars align once more. Was this poetry, myth, or a coded message from a secret order that had hidden the prince away? Forbidden Mercury and the legend of the two tombs, historical texts about the Qin tomb have long mentioned the use of liquid mercury, not only as decoration, but as a defense mechanism. According to Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian, Emperor Qin Shi Huang's burial chamber contained rivers and lakes of mercury to symbolize the cosmos. Recent tests near the known mausoleum have confirmed unusually high mercury levels, enough to suggest these accounts were true. But what stunned researchers in this new tome was that similar traces appeared here too, in identical concentrations, but deeper underground. That led to one chilling hypothesis. Prince Gao's tomb might have been part of a secret mirror complex, a hidden counterpart built beneath the emperor's own tomb. In other words, a shadow tomb. If so, it would mean that the emperor not only buried himself in a world of immortality, he created an underground double for his son, possibly as part of a forgotten ritual meant to secure his legacy across lifetimes. And that raised another question: was Prince Zhao truly dead, or was his tomb meant for something far stranger, an attempt to preserve life itself? The mystery of the obsidian mirrors. Among the most baffling discoveries were the bronze and obsidian mirrors surrounding the sarcophagus. Infrared scans showed that when light entered the chamber, it reflected across the mirrors in a perfectly calculated pattern, converging onto the lid of the coffin itself. One physicist described it as a primitive laser array, an ancient optical system designed to focus light or energy into a single point. What were they trying to achieve? An ancient Taoist text called the Book of the Golden Light speaks of rituals using mirrors to capture the soul's reflection and guide it through eternity. Some scholars believe these mirrors were part of a funerary process, not just for decoration, but to channel spiritual energy into the body of the deceased. Incredibly, fragments of these same texts were found inscribed along the chamber's floor. They mention the traveler between worlds and a prophecy. One, the dragon stirs beneath the city of clay. The mirror born shall awaken. It was dismissed by officials as poetic superstition, but the timing of the tomb's discovery and its alignment with certain celestial coordinates made some researchers uneasy, because the chamber's layout matched a star pattern visible in 210 BCE, one associated with rebirth and divine ascension. The voice from the ground shortly after the tomb's opening. Sensors placed near the sarcophagus began to detect faint vibrations, rhythmic pulses, repeating every 42 seconds. At first, they were thought to be geological noise, but when analyzed, the sound contained structured harmonics, tones consistent with human vocal frequencies. It was as if something beneath the stone was resonating. One recording leaked to the public before being deleted from state archives. Listeners described it as a low, haunting hum, almost like a chant echoing from miles below. The government has never confirmed this, but those who worked on site still call it the voice of Gao. Why it matters if this tomb truly belongs to Prince Gao? It could change our entire understanding of the Qin dynasty's fall. Some historians have long argued that the empire's collapse was not purely political, but cosmic in nature. Legends say that Emperor Qin's pursuit of immortality angered the heavens, and that his descendants were cursed to fade from history. If Gao's tomb was designed as an attempt to reverse that curse, to link human life to the cycles of the stars, then this discovery may reveal astronomy and spirituality into a single pursuit to conquer death itself. And if the mirrored chamber beneath Xi'an truly represents a secret continuation of Qin Shi Huang's grand design, then perhaps the emperor's dream did not end with his death. Perhaps it continues to this day, waiting buried beneath the earth, humming softly beneath the soil. The forbidden section in January 2026, a section of the site was abruptly sealed off. All research was paused. The official explanation was geological instability, but multiple anonymous workers later claimed something else was found, and inside it another sarcophagus, smaller, unmarked, but made of pure jade. When they opened it, the interior was empty, except for a small bronze mirror lying on red silk. On its surface, a single phrase was inscribed in ancient seal script: "He who looks within shall awaken what should remain asleep." The artifact was immediately confiscated. The site was classified, and for now, the legend of Prince Zhao returns once more to silence. Yet the people of Xi'an still whisper about it. At night, locals say the ground near the excavation hums faintly, as if something beneath is still alive. Others report seeing soft blue light flicker under the soil during thunderstorms. Perhaps it's just imagination. Or perhaps after 2,000 years, the dragon beneath Xi'an has started to breathe again. The chamber that shouldn't exist. When the excavation team lowered their equipment into the newly exposed shaft, they believed they were descending into history. Another sealed crypt from China's First Dynasty, a discovery to be studied, catalogued, and carefully preserved. But within hours, something changed. Sensors began to fail, lights flickered, and a smell, metallic, ancient, yet somehow alive, rose from the darkness. The archaeologists had found a chamber that shouldn't exist, a space carved not just by human hands, but by something that seemed to understand geometry in a way that defied explanation. The unearthly design. When drones were sent into the lower tunnel, the first images stunned the team. The walls weren't rough stone like the upper chamber. They were smooth, reflective, and faintly luminescent, as if coated with a mineral that glowed from within. One engineer compared it to fiber optics fused into rock. The deeper the drone went, the stronger the reflections became, until the sensors began picking up something impossible: a faint electromagnetic pulse emanating from the walls themselves. The readings were rhythmic, steady, precise, like a heartbeat. When the data was transmitted to the surface, one of the senior archaeologists, Professor Lin Yu, noticed something chilling. The pulse wasn't random. It followed a mathematical pattern, the Fibonacci sequence, a ratio often found in nature and in certain architectural wonders around the world. Lin stared at the monitor in silence before whispering, "This tomb is alive." The hidden map beneath Xi'an. Within weeks, satellite imagery revealed something even more astonishing. The newly discovered tunnel didn't just descend vertically. It curved outward, linking with several underground caverns that formed a massive circular pattern beneath the entire Xi'an region. When overlaid with the positions of known Qin Dynasty relics, the formation perfectly matched the star map of the Draco constellation, the dragon of the northern sky, and at its very center was the newly found tomb. It was as if the entire burial network of Xi'an, the Terracotta Army, the Emperor's Mausoleum, the smaller satellite tombs, had all been built as part of a single cosmic design centered on this hidden chamber. Chinese historians had long spoken of the dragon lines, invisible channels of power said to run beneath the earth, guiding the fortune of dynasties. But this pattern went beyond myth. It was mathematical, deliberate, engineered. Someone, or something, had built Xi'an's foundation around the sleeping dragon. Government silence. In early 2026, word of the new find began leaking online. Images of the luminous tunnel, the pulse readings, and a strange mirror fragment removed from the site. Within hours, the posts vanished. Then, the site was fenced off by military trucks. The official explanation was environmental containment. But several researchers involved in the dig later vanished from public view. Emails were returned with auto responses claiming they had been reassigned. One anonymous worker later told an independent journalist, "They told us we weren't uncovering history. We were disturbing something the emperors themselves had buried for a reason." the mirror that reacted to sound. Among the items recovered, at first it appeared ordinary. But under certain conditions, specifically when exposed to human voice frequencies, its surface vibrated. Spectrographic analysis revealed that it was not pure bronze at all, but an alloy with traces of tellurium, bismuth, and an unknown crystalline compound. When a low frequency tone was played near it, the mirror emitted a faint light, and for a brief instant, the reflected image seemed to change. Witnesses described seeing the outline of a human figure standing behind them, but not matching anyone in the room. One physicist called it a quantum reflection anomaly. Others whispered that it was the face of the prince himself. The artifact was later transferred to an undisclosed government facility. The researchers involved signed lifetime confidentiality agreements. But before it was taken, Professor Lin managed to record the light spectrum emitted during the test. The pattern matched a frequency measured in only one other place on Earth, beneath the Great Pyramid of Giza, during similar resonance experiments in the King's Chamber. How could a Qin Dynasty artifact share an identical acoustic signature with a monument built on the other side of the world thousands of years earlier? Unless both civilizations were tapping into something older than either of them, the ancient power network. That was when the theory emerged, one that shocked even the most cautious historians. What if the tomb beneath Xi'an wasn't simply a burial chamber, but a node, an energy conduit in a global network of ancient sites, pyramids, temples, and tombs, each aligned to specific celestial coordinates, designed to resonate together like an orchestra of stone and light? When the bronze mirrors and crystalline walls vibrated in harmony, they could amplify and channel electromagnetic fields from the Earth itself. To ancient minds, this might have been seen as divine power, the breath of dragons, the song of heaven. But to modern science, it might represent something else entirely, a prehistoric understanding of geoelectric energy and resonance far beyond what we believed possible 2,000 years ago. The Forbidden Journal, after the site was closed, a handwritten notebook surfaced on the dark web, supposedly belonging to one of the dismissed researchers. The handwriting matched that of Dr. Xu Haran, a geochemist who had worked at the Xi'an excavation for 6 months before disappearing. His final entry read, "The resonance chamber beneath Xi'an is not a tomb. It's a recorder. The entire structure stores information, perhaps consciousness, encoded in sound and light. We've triggered something we don't understand. The pulse is growing stronger every day." Shortly after the journal appeared online, the account hosting it vanished. The PDF file was erased from all mirrors within 24 hours. But not before it was downloaded by hundreds of independent researchers across the world. One physicist in Japan, Dr. Aya Takahashi, analyzed the pulse pattern mentioned in the notes. She discovered it matched the Earth's Schumann resonance, the natural frequency of the planet's atmosphere. In simple terms, the heartbeat beneath Xi'an was synchronized with the Earth itself. The day the pulse stopped in mid-March 2026, seismic monitors across Shaanxi recorded an unexplained fluctuation beneath the tomb site. The electromagnetic pulse that had been steady for months suddenly spiked, and then stopped completely. When the military allowed limited access back to the site weeks later, researchers found something incredible. The luminous walls were now dark, the mineral glow had faded, and the air inside the lower chamber was colder than the surrounding rock, as if all energy had been drained from it. The mirrors near the sarcophagus were cracked. The inscriptions on the floor had changed. Where once it had said, "The dragon shall awaken," the new carvings read, "The dragon has returned to silence." No one could explain how inscriptions carved into stone could alter themselves, but microscopic analysis confirmed the engravings were freshly cut, less than a week old. That suggested something, or someone, had been active inside the sealed chamber after it was supposedly closed. The sound beneath the earth, not long after the pulse ceased, strange reports came from local villagers near the site. During heavy rainstorms, they claimed to hear a low, humming tone rising from the ground, deep, resonant, and rhythmic. When recorded, the tone's waveform matched one last data file left on Dr. Chu's confiscated laptop, a sound sample labeled Jiao sequence. Within the audio, spectral analysis revealed hidden modulation, coded layers beneath the tone. When amplified and slowed down, the pattern formed recognizable Chinese characters. I am the mirror. I am awake. Some dismissed it as coincidence. Others saw it as the final message of Prince Gao, or perhaps of something that had used his tomb as a vessel to speak through. The Great Dragon hypothesis, meanwhile, historians revisiting ancient Qin records began to re-examine a peculiar legend, that the first emperor's spirit was guarded by a celestial dragon. In Taoist alchemy, dragons are not just mythical creatures. They represent energy flows, currents of power linking heaven and earth. The emperor, known as the Son of Heaven, was believed to rule by harnessing this force. If Prince Zhao's tomb acted as a resonant node within this dragon network, then the Qin emperors may have attempted something extraordinary, creating an eternal dynasty not just of blood, but of vibration. And perhaps something about that network still functions. Modern satellite magnetometers continue to record faint fluctuations above Xi'an, forming spirals of electromagnetic activity precisely aligned with the ancient tomb's geometry. To official agencies, these are dismissed as minor anomalies. But to those who have seen the readings, it looks like a sleeping system recharging itself. The seal of heaven, the final discovery, before all research was classified, came from deep core samples drilled beside the jade chamber. At a depth of 52 meters, the team struck a smooth metallic surface. Unlike the stone architecture above, this layer was composed of an alloy unknown to modern metallurgy, resistant to acid heat and radio waves. Its surface bore a single mark, a six-pointed symbol formed from overlapping circles, resembling both the Taoist Bagua and the astronomical chart of Draco. They called it the Seal of Heaven. When scientists directed a magnetic field toward it, the alloy emitted a tone, the same frequency as the pulse that had been emanating from the tomb before it went silent. It was as if the metal was remembering something, replaying an echo from a time when the tomb was still awake. Silence and waiting. By mid-2026, the site was completely shut down. The last report released to the public stated that the structure was geologically unstable and unsafe for continued exploration. But privately, researchers who had been there described a different reason. They said that on the final night before closure, the temperature sensors in the main chamber registered a sudden drop, followed by a faint human voice picked up on every microphone. The word repeated 3 times in ancient Chinese dialect, return. And then, the signal was gone. Today, the area north of Xi'an is quiet again. Farmers work their fields above what may be the most mysterious structure ever built in China. No one is allowed within the perimeter. But some nights, when the wind is still, locals say the soil trembles ever so slightly, as though something vast and sleeping far below is turning in its rest. Perhaps it's nothing, or perhaps the legend was true, that beneath the cradle of China, a dragon sleeps not in myth, but in metal and stone, waiting for the stars to align once more. And when that happens, the world may finally learn why the emperors of Qin built a mirror beneath the earth, not to reflect the heavens, but to awaken them. The forbidden chamber, they said the excavation would stop at 20 meters. But when the sensors began picking up hollow echoes far below that point, silence fell across the command tent. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The air inside the temporary lab smelled like dust and copper. On the monitors, the subsurface imaging lines pulsed, black, red, and then a strange emerald green. Something metallic was buried deep beneath the tomb of Prince Gao. Something not of this era. Dr. Lu Wen, the lead archaeologist, leaned closer to the display. "That's not bedrock," she whispered. "That's a structure." No one argued. The screen showed perfect geometry. Triangles and circles carved in stone, fused with traces of alloy. It was as if the ground itself had been folded over a vault no one had touched for 3,000 years. Security tightened around the site. No journalists, no drones, no local workers allowed beyond the perimeter fence. The Chinese Ministry of Culture classified the new find as Class Omega, a term used only for discoveries too politically or historically volatile to release publicly. At night, the dig site glowed under floodlights. The desert around Xi'an fell silent, broken only by the faint hum of machinery and the slow creak of cranes lowering instruments into the pit. On the seventh night, one of the drills hit metal. The sound was clear and unmistakable, a sharp clang that echoed through the valley. The team gathered at the edge of the trench. The camera feed showed it a smooth surface, reflective even through centuries of burial.